Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Hello, everybody. Good evening, or whenever you're actually watching this. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to get started very shortly. Go ahead and grab what you need. If you're going to take some notes, go ahead and get that. We're also going to use Pear Deck. So you're going to need to select joinpd.com. And I'll post that up for you in just a moment. And I'm going to give you the code. Also, in the description box, you're going to need the actual link for today. So go ahead and get queued up. All right, and let's get started. Okay, welcome everybody. Super excited once again to have everybody here with us today. Of course, if you're watching this asynchronously, then you have the option of pausing whenever you need to do so. So please feel free to do so. I'm going to go ahead and share with you. They always say there's a couple different types of presenters. I am a presenter that will talk to you every step of the way. So I will share with you exactly what it is that you need. Let's get started. As promised, this is the Pear Deck. So this is the first part of a presentation. The next presentation I'm going to do is going to walk you through how to create a Pear Deck. But that's not today. Today, you're going to use Pear Deck to follow along with me for today's presentation. All right. So here we go. Once again, joinpd.com, and the code is VAQPSA. Go ahead and pause your screen if you need to do so. You can type that in, or you can simply click on the link in the description box below. Okay, so let's get started. Here's our objective for today. Students will define STEAM and discover opportunities to integrate STEAM in their learning tasks. And so, what is STEAM education? What is STEAM education? Let's take a look, and we can take a look and see exactly what that is. STEAM education is going to have some different benefits. It lends itself to curiosity, problem solving, more participation in their learning and student learning, where they share ideas, communication skills, and also empathy. So you want to make sure you're taking that into account as well. All right. The next thing is going to be your 21st century skills that is also going to be fostered. So STEAM education involves science, technology, engineering, the arts, and also mathematics. And I like to say everything else in between. There's also STREAM education that includes reading as well. Very, very beneficial to students. So, as you know, today's lesson is talking about hands on activities and also integrating art into our curriculum. So, here we have a example of a teacher who's working with some students on the STEM activity. And these are some things that we can also do. But we're not only going to just observe this image, we're going to take a close look at the actual lesson for today. So please join with me as we go along to view this actual lesson. Here we go. It is loading. And we're going to travel to Atlanta.
Boys and girls, what is inside of this bag? Air. You are going to see convection at its best.
Now that we are a STEAM school, using project-based learning as our primary instructional strategy, we see our students exceeding at the highest levels. They're interested in what's happening in the world. They're interested in their own learning and how they're going to apply that.
So here at Charles Drew Charter School, we are a STEAM school with an emphasis on science, technology, engineering, the arts, and math. Our kids not only get the regular curriculum, but they also have classes, science lab with me, robotics, engineering, art, chorus, band.
This is called a I'm taking dance and orchestra right now.
I like technology too.
I like science, and I like to learn about how things work.
Well, for us, project-based learning and STEAM can't really be separated.
Instead of teaching these skills and these disciplines in isolation, we collaborate and work together. Our students are making connections between these disciplines.
We know that the careers that are going to be available are in STEAM fields. We use project-based learning to help our students be successful in those careers.
Project-based learning is not just creating a project. It is not teaching theme units. It's solving a problem. The project is a product that students create in order to solve a problem. It's a project that needs to have an audience and needs to have a lasting impact.
So across the entire building, teams collaborate to plan project-based learning instruction.
So ideally, what we're going to do is look at these essential elements.
We focus on one project-based learning unit that integrates all of the subject areas each quarter. The teachers work together to look at their standards, look at what's relevant for our students, what's happening in the world, and design a driving question.
I like it a lot because there's like one question, one big picture. I like big pictures, but I also like that you can like ask little questions within the big question.
A big standard in third grade is teaching about heat. We wanted to see if students could figure out a problem within their community that they could solve using heat. We immediately thought of a snowpocalypse. Heat played an important role, whether it was related to the weather or how Atlantans coped.
There was just coldness and snow and ice. And so heat plays a really good part to keep us warm.
We eventually arrived at the question of how can we better prepare for Atlanta's changing weather.
We went in this direction because we knew that it affected a lot of their families. It affected our school.
My students researched the event. I brought in some community members to just share their stories.
We had so many people stranded. We had students who were on the bus 10, 11 o'clock at night. And we was trying to contact parents just to let them know where their child was.
They couldn't believe some of the stuff they heard. And that, to me, was this very organic way that they arrived at this problem and this feeling of, I want to do something about it.
We are going to be thinking of some ways to help Atlantans better prepare for weather like this.
The teachers may have designed a project that's going to guide the students in a direction, but the students have a big role helping to design products that will solve those problems.
My class came up with some type of safety case that would help them if they were stranded. So they'll do certain little mini projects along the way, like a solar oven. We're going to talk about insulation. They'll test different materials to see what are good conductors of heat and to see how could these everyday materials fit into your kit.
Wooden spoon, plastic spoon, metal spoon.
Does it feel cold? Does it feel hot?
Feel it.
Record your observations. What about the metal spoon, Destiny?
The metal spoon got hotter.
So that was the hottest?
Yes.
All right, so right
One
now.
of the questions that they said that they needed to know was, well, how is heat produced? Mr. Thomas came up with the idea to bring the entire third grade out.
Heat energy can be transferred in how many ways? 3, conduction, radiation, and convection. The heat from the sun will transfer energy to the air inside this bag. Once the molecules in the air inside the bag get warmed up, the solar bag is going to rise into the air.
Our commitment to STEAM has shaped how we do project-based learning here at Drew. Technology, science, engineering, that all factors into what we're looking for the students to be able to do when they're answering this driving question.
We see our students collaborating naturally to solve problems, not just the ones presented to them by teachers, but the ones that they just face every day.
All right, and so that's going to be at the very core of a STEAM-based program. You're going to find that the students are beginning to take on the characteristics that you are teaching throughout the program, not only in and during the lesson, but also throughout their everyday lives and interactions with each other. And also in that video, I wanted to show you the entire thing. I was thinking about clipping it, but I didn't want to clip it because It really gave us a chance to look into how they're using hands-on activities. And if I were going through and teaching this lesson, I could also incorporate some art. What do you see? They could be drawing. I could work with the art teacher and work on some different art standards about showing the different ways that heat rises. Now, if I'm working with this in middle school students and I'm letting them be behind the scenes of the camera while we go out and do a presentation. So I'm not only incorporating one thing, I'm also incorporating media arts into it as well. So the sky's the limit. I want you to really think outside of the box because our students are capable of doing so much, so many wonderful things. We just have to make sure that we're continuing to give them that opportunity to do so. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for all that you are doing with our students. I wanted to refer back to the presentation for today, which is in the Pear Deck. If you're just now joining us, you have the ability to join in with today's lesson by clicking on the Pear Deck activity. I'm going to share that Pear Deck with you one more time. Again, joinpd.com. The code to join is VAQPSA. You do have the ability to pause this video and you are able to use this at your own pace. All right, we're going to go ahead and continue. And I want you just to answer this question. What did you observe about student questioning during this video? What did you observe about student questioning during this video? All right, go ahead and take some time to answer that question at this time. Because this is student pace, if you're skipping ahead a little bit, that's okay. And I will let you know the format is video question, video question. So if you want to watch the video with me and also on your screen, on an additional screen, if you have it, you can go ahead onto the questions and just jot in some things as the video is going on. That way you're able to maximize your time, which I know is very precious to you. All right, we're going to move right on to the next video. It's going to talk about project-based learning. And I want us to take a look at this and see how they're getting the community involved in the actual lesson. All right. So this is in Hawaii. So aloha. And let's go ahead and begin at this time. So I'm showing the correct screen, which is very important to do, or you won't be able to hear a thing, and we want you to hear. All right, here we go.
One free meal per kid. Okay. For every 2 days.
Imagine students combining skills in art, math, science, and writing, all in the creation of one project. That's just what one of the latest trends in our schools is doing, known as project-based learning. This teaching technique is being used as a way to engage students and get them to take a leadership role in their own learning.
So instead of handing a child a rubric and say, here's ABC, please get this to me by Tuesday, it's here's an open-ended question, where can we take this and what can we do with it? What it really does for the student is it gives them a chance to become leaders so that.
And I want to point out that even though this video is in the elementary school, this is applicable all the way up to 8th grade and even beyond, really.
They can step out of just sitting in their desk and just waiting for the answers to come for them. Now they have to think for themselves. So I looked at my standards with my 4th grade team and we discussed what can we cover. Science is so heavily influenced in 4th grade. So we really needed to focus on our science standards in the beginning. So I thought, okay, well, we focus a lot on habitats. We do a lot of landforms, geographical features. They do a lot of map skills. So I thought, well, how could I turn that into something that they're going to enjoy and remember later on? So they each were put into groups and they each chose a continent. And then I said, okay, now choose an island within your continent. And then I said, okay, now become experts on your island. So tell me about the habitats. Tell me about adaptations that your animals have to survive in that habitat.
Our teacher said she handed us this paper that had geographical features. So there was like forests,
caves, waterfalls, lakes, rivers.
So I asked them the question, well, how do we bring tourists to our islands? And eventually they got around to, well, we need sales and marketing. Well, what is sales and marketing? How do we learn about sales and marketing?
Did y'all see that? Sales and marketing. Oh my goodness. That's not something I would have brought out automatically, not being a business teacher in any way, shape, or form. But that is so interesting that that's what they brought out. So when you're building these project-based learning, when you're doing these STEAM lessons, they automatically just lend themselves to opening students' eyes to so many different disciplines and also being integrated in their learning experience.
I let them do the research and they found 3 different hotels on Maui. So they contacted the Maui Coast Hotel and we had a sales and marketing person come in and they talked, they brought in books, and then we had a Four Seasons manager. He's a pool manager and he talked about the safety and what's it like to have a kid-friendly hotel and the importance of just running a hotel in general. And they asked so many different questions. They were interviewing the hotel managers and the construction worker.
All right, wonderful. And I want to point out that if you notice that it's skipping a little bit and it may be a little difficult for you to follow along, everything that you need is already embedded inside of today's presentation. So after you finish watching that, this is one of the things I want you to focus on. How was the community involved in this school? And how might your community become a part of your STEAM program? Just something to think about. How can we get the community involved and bring them in so that they are a part of the STEAM program? All right, so next we're going to talk about culturally responsive problem-based learning activities. Now, Zaretta Hammond is one of my new favorite authors. She is the author of Culturally Responsive Teaching and the Brain. In this, she promotes authentic engagement and rigor among culturally and linguistically diverse students. And she's also a national education consultant. Okay, so let's go in and we're going to go ahead and share my screen once again. And I'm going to share with you this video. Once again, if you want to watch more, if you want to go back to the beginning, you are welcome to do so. I'm just going to jump right in and show you a little highlight of today's video.
That evolution of focusing on equity. So we have to attend to both things. And I think on the anti-racist social political context side, we are continually looking at how do we recognize structural racialization or structural racism? How are we becoming literate about kind of the ways that this plays out in society and impacts students? And we're thinking about what are the counter narratives we have to lift up in order to negate the negative narratives about what certain kids can and can't do.
And so she comes to this conclusion because she begins to go through, and I'll just kind of skim through, she goes through some different lenses that we may already have, some biases that we may have towards certain cultures. And in this, she encourages us to not negate them or neglect them, but really confront them, because that is the way that we can grow. A lot of times it's very easy to avoid conflict. And while that may be necessary and sometimes, it's also okay to confront that conflict, because out of that you can have so much growth. So we want to make sure that that is what we are doing. All right, we're going to continue on with today's Pear Deck. And I just want you to go on to the next slide. And we're on slide 8. And it just says this question: why is it important to include all students in hands-on PBL STEAM activities? And that's something I really want you to think about. Why is it important to include all students in hands-on PBL STEAM activities? Now, in this last video, it's probably the longest one. Definitely, once again, not going to go through every single last thing. But in this video, they did give us some pretty good tips about some different types of projects that we could do and also some different materials and supplies, because we talked about making sure that we were able to have some hands-on materials. And a lot of times we think it's something grand, and a lot of times it can be things that we already have. So once again, just going to share that screen again, and we're going to jump right back over into the materials and supplies portion of this video. Now, as I stated, this video is a little lengthy and we are not going to watch the entire thing, but I wanted just to point out a couple of things that we have here.
There's construction paper, pipe cleaners, art processes to solve math problems. These create a routine for STEAM lessons.
And it may skip just for a second while it's getting that together. They do talk about just some very specific things that we want our students to do. Pause that while I cue that up to exactly where it needs to be. Here we go. So here are some tips. I'm just going to read it without having to play it. You can go back and read it at your own leisure. Repurpose supplies that you already have. Plan ahead and send home notes for supplies from home. Keep basics on hand: popsicle sticks, batteries, magnets, measurement tools, duct tape, containers, sticky notes. Items like this, they can really go a long way. Take advantage of online and community funding. I know a lot of times we are working in after-school activities or summer programs, and if that is the case, then there are funds available for you to order some different materials and supplies. So make sure you get that list to your site coordinator as soon as possible at the beginning of every session. That way you will have the materials that you need for each supply, and see if they have some already in stock left over from previous years too. That's also very, very beneficial. There's many different projects that we can do where students can bring in their own recycled materials, cereal boxes, cardboard boxes, anything like that they can build. I know there's a whole thing out there called Kane's Arcade. You can look that up. In Kane's Arcade, they built entire arcade game systems basically using duct tape and construction boxes, or boxes made out of not construction paper, but regular boxes. So you can do that as well. So there's a plethora of different activities that you can do with your students that really get them hands-on, get them learning, that get them to do some different sort of art activities as well. All right, so one of the things that I like to do is also just include some good old traditional art. I'm not going to go as far as to saying it's art integration, because when you're really stepping into art integration, you're really taking a look at the different standards that exist in art and also aligning them with what you are teaching within your classroom to really give the students a real world experience, hands-on learning opportunities, and practice in their cooperative learning skills as well. So one of the things that I like to do is just go ahead into ArtHub, artforkids.com. Okay. So this is actually found on YouTube as well. And in this, there is a plethora of different activities that the students can do. So I'm just going to peruse through this website and show this to you, that way you're able to see. Sometimes when I was doing the summer program, I would type in the different things. I know one year we were talking about ants. So I had a visitor come in who was an entomologist, and he taught the students. And then to begin the lesson, I had a kickoff thing, even though we're virtual. We had a kickoff moment where we drew the different ants online, and we started by using Art Kids Hub. And so we had students, they were really drawing, they really got into it. They loved to do it. And then we were using Class Dojo. So then they would then upload their portfolios, or they would upload their work into Class Dojo, and they were so proud of what they were doing. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to thank you so much for your time today. I know it is valuable. So moving forward, I want to leave you with these final thoughts. And the final thoughts are this: how can you use STEAM integration in your classroom? So how can you use STEAM integration in your classes? And once again, to join the presentation, make sure you're going to joinpd.com, VAQPSA. And you can join the link that is in the description box as well. That will take you directly to this presentation and give you access to everything. It is on Student Pace. And then don't forget to check in and tell me your name and your school site. Nobody else will be able to see this except for me, your professional development host. So make sure that you are doing this. And this needs to be done. It'll still be live within the first 30 days that this is published. After that, this Pear Deck will no longer be active, which leads me into a little preview for the next session. Coming up next, I'm going to show you how to create your very own interactive Pear Deck presentation, just like I've created today. Thank you so much for joining us, and we thank you for all you are doing for our community. We greatly appreciate it. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a wonderful rest of your summer. If you're watching this during the summer, if you're watching it again later on in the fall, have a great school year. Thank you again. Have a great day. Bye-bye.